Every morning, before the sun was fully up, before advisors could reach him, before the weight of empire pressed down on him, Marcus Aurelius wrote. Not orders, not strategy, not letters to senators or generals. He wrote to himself. Small reminders, honest confessions, arguments he was having with his own character, things he needed to hear before the day could take him somewhere he didn't want to go. Confine yourself to the present. Do not indulge in dreams of what you do not have. You have power over your mind, not outside events. These weren't inspirational lines written for posterity. They were a man, the most powerful man alive, actively working on himself in the only hours the world hadn't claimed yet. We call it meditations now. He called it nothing. It was never meant to be a book. And what's in it, the actual practice behind it, is something almost nobody talks about. Here is something that gets lost in the modern obsession with morning routines. We've turned mornings into performance. Cold showers, journaling apps, 5-step rituals posted on Instagram. The morning has become another arena for optimization, another place to win or lose. Marcus Aurelius had none of that framing. For him, the morning wasn't about productivity. It wasn't about getting ahead. It was about getting right. There's a distinction that matters here. Getting ahead is about the external world, your output, your results, your position. Getting right is about the internal world, your values, your character, your orientation toward the day. Almost everything in modern morning culture is about the former. Almost everything Marcus Aurelius did was about the latter. He began each morning with what the Stoics called prosi, a Greek word meaning attention to oneself, not self-obsession, not navel-gazing. Attention in the sense of a craftsman checking his tools before beginning work, clear-eyed, honest, purposeful. The question he was asking wasn't, what do I need to do today? It was, who do I need to be today? That sounds simple. It isn't, because answering it honestly requires admitting the gap between who you are and who you want to be. And most people spend enormous energy avoiding that particular conversation with themselves. Marcus Aurelius had it every morning by choice. Here is the passage from Meditations that most people skip past because it sounds too dark for a morning routine. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Read that, and your first instinct might be that's a miserable way to start the day, but stay with it. He continues, they are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. This isn't pessimism. This is something far more sophisticated. Marcus Aurelius was practicing what modern psychologists would call defensive pessimism, not to create despair, but to dissolve the particular kind of suffering that comes from unmet expectations. Think about how much of your daily frustration comes not from what people do, but from your surprise that they did it. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Someone takes credit for your work. Someone is rude for no reason. The event is annoying, but what makes it genuinely disruptive isn't the event. It's the collision between what happened and what you expected. Marcus Aurelius removed that collision every morning deliberately. By the time difficult people showed up in his day, and as emperor they showed up constantly, he had already made peace with their existence. He had already decided that their behavior was not a personal offense against him, but simply the nature of humans who haven't yet found their way toward wisdom. And crucially, he reminded himself they share a nature with him, that he too has been difficult, ungrateful, small-minded, that the distance between him and them is not fixed. This is empathy dressed in Stoic clothing, and it's one of the most underrated practices in all of his work. Beyond the attitude adjustment, Marcus Aurelius used his mornings for something more concrete. He prepared. Not in the logistical sense, though certainly that happened too. He prepared philosophically. He thought through the day ahead and asked himself, What will this day ask of me? And what does virtue look like in response? The Stoics had a practice called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Before each day, they would mentally rehearse what might go wrong, not catastrophizing, rehearsing. There's a difference. A surgeon rehearses difficult scenarios before entering the operating room, not because she expects every surgery to go wrong, but because when something unexpected happens, her response comes from preparation, not panic. Marcus Aurelius did the same with life. What if someone humiliates me today? How will I respond? What if my plans fall apart? What if I receive news I don't want? What if someone I trust betrays me? He sat with these questions in the quiet of the morning and answered them according to his values before the day had a chance to answer for him. This matters because our worst moments are rarely our most thoughtful ones. When we're caught off guard, we react. When we've prepared, we respond. The gap between reaction and response is where character lives, and character for the Stoics was the only thing worth building. Let's talk about the writing itself, because this is the part most people either skip entirely or do wrong. Marcus Aurelius didn't journal in the modern sense. He didn't record events. He didn't document feelings. He didn't write, "Dear diary, today was hard." He wrote arguments with himself, corrections to himself, reminders he knew he would forget by noon if he didn't commit them to the page. Pick up Meditations and look at the structure. It's fragments, short passages, some only a sentence long. Many of them are the same idea revisited, slightly differently phrased, as if he kept needing to come back to it because it kept slipping away. He wrote these because he needed them, not as a gift to the future, as a lifeline in the present. A man reminding himself again and again of what he actually believed before the world convinced him to believe something easier. There's something profound in that repetition. We live in a culture that prizes novelty, new ideas, new content, new perspectives. We scroll for the next thing before we've absorbed the last one. Marcus Aurelius kept returning to the same ideas, not because he hadn't understood them, but because understanding something once is not the same as living it. Because wisdom is not a destination, it's a practice. A daily return to the same truths in the hope that this time they go a little deeper. If you want to do what Marcus Aurelius did, write not for an audience, not for clarity of expression. Write to think, write to argue with yourself. Write to put on paper the person you want to be today, so that when the day tries to pull you somewhere else, you have something to return to. Here's what I want you to see. Marcus Aurelius's morning practice wasn't a collection of habits. It was an architecture. Each piece supported the others. The attitude preparation, expecting difficulty, extending empathy, cleared the emotional field. The philosophical rehearsal, thinking through adversity before it arrived, prepared the will. The writing, the daily return to core ideas, anchored the identity. Together, they did something that no single practice could do alone. They created continuity. The man who wrote in the morning was the same man who had to make decisions at noon, who had to manage conflict in the afternoon, who had to face uncertainty at night. The thread connecting all of those moments was the morning practice, the daily act of choosing and writing who he intended to be. Most people have no such thread. They wake up and immediately receive the world's agenda, phone notifications, news, other people's urgency. Before they've decided who they are that day, 100 external forces have already begun shaping them. Marcus Aurelius reversed this. He decided first, then he engaged. That sequence, decide, then engage, is one of the most quietly radical things a person can do in modern life. Because the world does not want you to decide first. The world wants your attention immediately, before you found your footing. The Stoic morning practice is at its core an act of sovereignty. a refusal to let the day begin before you do. Marcus Aurelius ruled for nearly 2 decades through plague, through war, through the deaths of children and the betrayal of people he trusted. He wasn't always equal to it. His journal makes that clear. There are passages that read like a man barely holding on, reminding himself of things he knows but cannot feel, reaching for wisdom he believes in but cannot quite access in the moment. And that's the part that makes him worth listening to. Not because he was perfect, because he wasn't. And he kept going anyway. He kept showing up to the page every morning, kept asking the hard questions, kept choosing, however imperfectly, to be the person his values demanded. That's what the morning practice actually is. Not a system for perfect days, a system for returning again and again to who you've decided to be. You don't have to be an emperor to use it. You just have to be willing to wake up a little earlier than the noise and ask yourself before anything else, who do I want to be today? Write the answer down, then go live it.